and he's going to score Bristol's third try.
What a
But
try.
what great
That was
play by
fantastic.
Augustine Pichot.
And Bristol have made a bit of history, winning the European Challenge Cup for the first time ever.
And Bristol have won. They won the local derby.
Hello, you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're 3 season card holders: Ashton Gate, who love the club, the game and all things Bears. This week we pick over the defeat at Connacht, we discuss some of the wider implications of this, and then we look forward to the massive game this weekend against Bath, and finish off by having a quick review of the women's game against Harlequins at Shaftesbury Park. Now, you might have noticed that I said 3 season card holders rather than our normal 2.5. That's because, unfortunately, Lee can't make it tonight, so we've had to pull in a loan signing, and I'd like to welcome, for his pod debut, Reg. How you doing, Reg?
Very well, thank you, and thanks for having me.
Well, as listeners can tell, one of the reasons Reg is here is because he's providing a proper Bristol accent as well.
Absolutely.
And I've got to say, Reg, that it's very kind of you to do this, but there is no contract on the table at the moment. But it's work experience, the way I look at it. But we should say Reg is a season card holder. He's a Bristolian through and through. Season card holder down the Bears, and he's
a City fan as well.
He's a City fan as well.
Season ticket holder.
Dual season. He's one of the Bristol Sport kind of, legend investors. Groupies. Probably goes to watch the Flyers as well. But probably the biggest thing on his CV is he's one of Miles's friends.
Well, absolutely, and I might have just said, he's a perfect injury cover for. Well, where is Lee? I mean, there's rumours that he's in witness protection still, following his Post article. He's taken down his Christmas tree this evening. I don't know, he's missing in action. Anyway, a big thanks to my mate Reg, actually. And I'd just like to say, I did my inclusivity and diversity training at work the other day. And as such, we've reached out across the other side of North Street to get Reg involved this evening. Absolutely.
So he's not Southville?
No. Ooh. But yeah, we are.
As I said,
we've not even got an RPZ.
That's nothing to be proud of, is it?
No, exactly. Our rates are going to go up soon, so I might be joining you soon, mate. But yeah, thanks for covering Reg Lee's absence this evening.
You're welcome.
Well, look, let's get into this. All our listeners know is that what we like to do is to talk about the game that's just gone, and obviously that game was our final Champions Cup pool match away at Connacht in glorious Galway, and it was on Friday night, and obviously it didn't go very well. But as we've been doing in more recent times, is before we start chatting about it, it's always nice to find out what you lot, what the listeners or the followers thought about it. But there was quite a lot of chat over the weekend, thanks to various tweets that we put out. So rather than put a normal short summary today, I went for something we've never done before. It's not particularly original, but I went for 3-word reviews, and I got to be said, it was great. We probably had something like 40 responses, which that's quite good in our world. Unless you're thinking, what, only 40? And actually, having gone through them, I put them into 2 groups. So some of them were game specific ones, and some of them were more general comments. So what I'm going to do is quickly run through the game specific ones, because there were some good ones in there, and then we may well, we will have a look at the general ones. So here we go. Let's go. I've got my phone, so I can try and at least quote people when we do it. So first one came in, Bears Gamer. He said, no more learnings. And then he said, time for results or time to go. So I'm not quite sure he's adding another 3. It was like one of those COVID contracts. He's gone for a 3 and then he's added another +1 on it. But anyway, thanks for that, Bears Gamer. Jonathan Legg only watched 50. Oh, he didn't get that right. He's written a whole thing. So I have to go far from there. Oh, no, change is needed. Jonathan Legg, change is needed. Bear over the bridge. Red wasn't cause. A bit more analytical.
Okay.
Alcy Pod, not very good. Fair enough. Nick Cowell, yet more disappointment. Surely change is needed. Please beat Bath. Must do better. What's the plan?
All right.
So he was multiples of 3 there.
Well,
off on one.
Yeah. Alistair Stephen, change must come. Oh, no, hang on. That was one for the next group. Sorry about that.
Later on.
Paul Hibbard was no game plan. Rugby Booze in the Sunset said better team won. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Paul Misen, apologies, sort the scrum. And then we had a very good one from Reg. Reg Coombs, I don't know who that is. And Reg said, don't, full stop, wear, full stop, tights, full stop. And do you know what, Reg? The claim to fame for your one was that you were the only person to get a rebuttal from someone else.
I know, I saw,
and
yeah.
someone replied to you, Andrew at Gary Hand said, have you played on a 4G pitch?
And I can tell him I play on a 4G pitch every week.
Yeah. So there you go.
And there we are. Thank you very much.
Direct
And we've got no witness to say that you wear tights, Reg.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the only thing I would say, Reg, it was only Max Malins, wasn't it?
It was.
Wearing
It
tights.
looks really
was.
I know.
quite unusual.
I know. I mean, I did wonder that is a bit embarrassing. Was
that
it?
not a little clause in his contract when we came from Saracens? Wear no tights. Clearly not. I mean,
No, I don't know. But it was a bit. It did stick out a little bit that Max was wearing them. But, you know, it is what it is. That's what he wanted to do. Right, a few more we've got. What have I missed out here? So, don't wear tights. Cycle fan, 2 hours wasted. That's a good one. One that isn't a name, it's just a load of icons, or is it at UXB Jeff? Outplayed without leadership. Someone else put more than 3, so I can't read that out. Mr. G put underachieving again. Ryan Keishel, and he got cross with me because I didn't read his out last week, so I thought I'd better name check him. He put unlucky, clueless, worried. Brisley put ref subbed off. So, yeah, he's very observant that he noticed that the ref, that wasn't really anything to the game. Then we had Robin Hambley, who's been before. He said not good enough. And then we had, just looking, bad at rugby from Huge Swede. And then we had a Miles Clark.
Okay, sorry.
At Miles Clark, someone who very rarely interacts on
Tweets.
Twitter. He put Bath will win. But that's obviously not about Friday. That's about the general one. So I got that wrong. Come back to that one. Steve Bold put dry January exacabated. So I'm not quite sure what he means there. Does he mean that he's given up on dry?
It's driven him to
I
drink.
reckon it's driven
Driven
him
him to
to
drink. Yeah,
drink.
well, I mean that's obviously driven.
Understandable.
Driven him back to the Guinness.
Dan Masters, someone we see down the tap room a lot. No plan B.
Like that.
But we had two. Finished 2 ones at the end that were more positive, but unfortunately they were both from Irish names. So we had, they were
Love the
obviously
win.
Connacht fans. So we had where's he gone? Where is he? As he says, going up and down. We had I've really apologised because it's I'm going to spell this out. It's E with an accent. ANNA, so it's clearly Gaelic.
No idea.
But oh no, Anna said something's not clicking, but then later on, then we had one from Fion, who I think Fionn, I'm assuming he's a bloke. He said I enjoyed it, so I'm assuming he was a Connacht fan. And then we had one other person, Aidan Buckley, said really good Guinness, which I think is fair enough.
Well, finish on the positives.
Finish on a positive. So yeah, it was. I mean, there was a theme there, boys, wasn't there? It wasn't
a negative.
Yeah.
Theme.
I think we don't need to go into it too much. It was a very disappointing night.
Absolutely.
But Miles, I mean, when the team came out on whenever it was Thursday, I mean, it was a pretty strong lineup. So, I mean, what were your thoughts about our chances then?
Well, I mean, we did know that we needed some points over in Galway, didn't we? And that was, I think, no doubting, the strongest team we could have put out, injuries aside. We had Sinclair back. Obviously, we know Thax is injured, Ogilvy in the centre, and Jake Bournemore in the front row. Caulfield and Batley, who've been stalwarts this season. Luatua, Fitzharding back from foot injury, and Bradbury. You could say that we should have had no worries about the strength of our scrum on Friday night. And in the backs, there was nothing really to be worried about, was there? That was potentially, there's no denying, our best available team, barring a few injuries, available. So, yeah, we were going to go for it. There was no other option on Friday night. So I think, what turned out to be a disastrous night shouldn't have been looking at that team sheets.
And if you remember, we had some input from the Craggy Rugby pod last week, and although they were confident that Connacht would get a win, they had also said that Connacht had been kind of up and down, and it sounded very similar to us. Actually, hadn't really put together a consistent performance.
Am I right? No game in the competition thus far.
And also something we may come back to. They also told us that they had the last time or the only time they'd ever got a bonus point victory against an English side in a European competition was in 1987, and it wasn't the Champions Cup; it was the Challenge Cup. So, Reg, that was kind of a bit of a foreboding. So, Miles has sketched out the fact we thought we were going to do a bit better. I mean, the game panned out as it was. I mean, what is your general thoughts on that game?
Again, I think we picked the strongest team we could. There was a bit of strength on the bench. I think it just ebbed away from us from the start almost. I think, the cards didn't help. But that's, maybe a bit of a lazy excuse for not performing as well as we did, and going back to, the strength of that team we put out. Was there a lack of clarity around what we should have been doing? Should we have been a bit cuter in what we did? But it didn't seem particularly joined up.
No, I mean, it's funny because actually Fitzharding was interviewed before the game very briefly. I don't know if you boys saw that because it was in the preview, and he basically said we talked about in the week being more cohesive, and we realised that that was what we really needed. We knew it was going to be tough here, and then actually I think Pat in the pre-match also said, it's very simple. We've got to be on it and we've got to be accurate. And of course the reality was they were neither on it nor accurate nor cohesive.
And if you've got to talk about it, there's clearly a problem.
And this is it. I mean, I think you're right from the get-go. Even before the red card, which we may discuss in a sec, we'd already knocked on, I think, 3 or 4 times. We'd already conceded a try, and we'd already given away quite a few turnovers, even before the red card. So, the writing, I don't know, it may not have been on the wall, but definitely the wall was there, and someone was holding quite a big pen. And then, after the red card, it just got
I think the theme there was, wasn't it, was the amount of knock-ons.
Yeah, it was, you're
crazy.
even reversed. So that red card was about 13 minutes I've written down here. So I think by then we'd already conceded a try, haven't we?
Well, you said,
on 7 minutes, I think there was a fantastic Connacht try. And you could argue it was quite uncomplicated. They ran out to the wing at amazing speed and just scored.
I think it was first phase, wasn't it? I think it was off a line out. I don't know. Yeah, it was.
Absolutely. So that was uncomplicated. Poor defence in that structure. And they scored. So you could say 7 minutes in, they were looking a very attacking side. And really, it was going to be a difficult game after then.
So here's something for you, Reg, because we've got to put you on the spot because you're our lone signing.
Love it.
I mean, Pat, after the game, when he was asked, what went wrong, he said, well, we lost possession, we didn't put enough pressure on, and we didn't take our opportunities. So my question to you is, because the bloke who didn't ask him the real question was like, well, why is that? So what do you think? I mean, why is it that we appear to do that sort of thing on a regular basis? Do you have any theories about this?
I don't know. I mean, I think, sometimes the message can get lost. Sometimes the message can get lost in... It's the same message every week, I guess, isn't it, really? Is that we seem to be making the same mistakes on a constant basis. We don't seem to be able to rectify that either, really. You'd expect, professional rugby players, professional sports people to be able to take those learnings, as they say, and then, from one game to the next. And we didn't. We just didn't apply ourselves early doors. We were on the back foot. We weren't good enough.
So Miles. You saying that? Because we got to tease this out because we don't know because we're not told. No. So, my theory is it that they're not really on it? Is their mentality not right? Are they focused enough? And, people make mistakes. People drop the ball all the time. But if that happens, like what's happening on the pitch, surely we'd like to think that somebody's going to get them together. They're going to say, right, boys, we've got a 15-minute of absolute focus, do the basics right. I don't know. What do you think, Miles?
Well, it's hard to say. You look at the whole sort of 80 minutes and we were beaten by what would appear a far better team on the night. and it shouldn't have been. I mean, to some, I did know a lot of the team. There was Bundyaki in there. There was
Prendergast, who was absolutely awesome.
Beelim, who got obviously studs to the face, etc. And actually, they've got some fantastic Irish internationals. However, we have. So were they really the better team on the night? Yes, they were. So you're right. Why is it that suddenly, after 13 minutes, the writing was on the wall. Our scrum was poor. Clearing the ruck was poor. But discipline was poor for the entire game. And I cannot understand. You're absolutely right. We've got our number one captain back, Fitzharding, which should say to the team, right, that's not worked. We're going to change this up and we're going to attack. But then I think after that, the unforced errors became more and more and more. Knock-ons became worse, I think, and penalty kicks and poor kicks, etc. I mean, I hate to say, but as a general theme, really, did anything function well for Bristol on Friday night? And I think most fans will say, probably not.
The best Bristol player on the pitch was Joe Joyce, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
I didn't want to mention him yet, but
I thought I've got to get in there. I mean, this is the thing, Reg, is that, Miles makes a good point. Man for man, I would say, we matched them. We had some big players on the pitch. Yeah. You make an argument about the packs, but so was it just there? Did they want it more?
I don't know. I mean, I think every game I look at the squad they announce, and I think we're going to do all right here. And every game we just seem to get let down a bit. The Boars game as well was case in point. We go over to Ireland, we can't do it over there. It just seems to be. I don't know what the right phrase to use is, but it just all seems very disjointed, really. Is that we put out a squad that looks mustard, and they can't do it on the pitch. Yeah,
I mean, it seems to me that we were. I mean, we all know we were out-muscled against the Bulls, not just in the scrum, but generally around the park. And the frustrating thing about Friday was that the same thing happened, and you would have thought, well, that was something that Bristol might have been wary of. And I mean, Connacht were a good side. Let's not beat around bush. But the thing is, good sides like Connacht shouldn't really dominate for the whole game like they did. I think they did. We should have been able, even after the red card, to kind of wrestle some momentum. And I think we had chances. There was a couple of chances where we were right on the line, and then they ripped the ball, off an international, and cleared. I mean, it's certain players. I mean, it's a debatable thing. Is it certain players who should do better, not quite doing it at the moment, and then it all kind of comes together, it accumulates over time, and then, it feels like the whole thing is going wrong. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, let's talk about a few specific things, otherwise we'll ramble on. Let's just talk about the red card, because that was obviously, there was a lot of controversy about that afterwards. Obviously, big Josh Caulfield, ironically our one enforcer on the pitch, who we probably needed to stay on it for 80 minutes, came into a ruck. There was an Irish player, it was Finlay Beelam, sort of rolling on the wrong side, I'd say, rolling towards our side, in a danger zone. And without looking at him, Josh Caulfield stamped on his head. I mean, it looked pretty bad. But what did you think, Miles? What was your take on it? Was it?
I think they slowed down the video. Yeah. I think it didn't look as bad, and I think you're right.
What you mean? It didn't look as bad it looked
real time. You wouldn't even notice. Would
that's what I'm saying. So it looked worse when they slowed it down.
Worse when they slowed it down. Sorry, there's controversy there. But you're right. It's a tough call. A lot of people said, yes, I fully understand. It was in the heat of the moment. It was a 100% fast play move, and accidentally he didn't find the space to put his foot down, and he took Beelam on the head. And then a lot of people saying, it wasn't malicious. I absolutely agree, but absolutely the letter of the law, reckless, and he should have been red carded. Yep. So as a Bristol fan, we're probably always going to say that's a flipping harsh decision. I think the ref and the two French TMOs made a decision very quickly. And in fact, I think I've read that one of the TMOs said, no, I think it should be a yellow, but the ref decided otherwise. I don't know. I mean, whether he should have been on the pitch or off the pitch, it was obviously irrelevant for the rest of the game. I feel now it was harsh, and that could subsequently be, him facing a ban,
or it might get downgraded.
Or it might get downgraded.
Yeah,
I mean, hopefully it might get downgraded by some sensible officiates.
What do you think, Reg?
I think as soon as they slow that down, it just looks quite horrible, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
No, it did look horrible.
It's not a great, and this is the problem with TMA or replays and all the rest of it, is it does take it to sort of the nth degree that you're not considering that it's a very fast-paced game and people are running here, there, and everywhere, sort of thing.
I mean, they didn't. I mean,
as soon as you stop it,
Yeah.
you think he's going to go.
But they didn't seem to discuss any possible mitigation.
No.
And I think there has been some chat that, Carl Sinkler also accidentally smacked Josh Crawford in the face just as he's coming over. Josh Crawford raises his knee to get over the top of Finlay Bealham, who's basically on the wrong side. And it's kind of, what is he supposed to do? And he wasn't looking. And I think the ref even said that I've no... Well, he didn't say you did it on purpose. He said you had plenty of time. But I mean, this is the irony. It's like plenty of time when you look at it on the slow-mo. I think, the interesting thing was, did you know, I don't know if you boys watched the Northampton game the next night against Munster, Curtis Langdon got sent off for a very similar misdemeanour in a ruck where he kneed one of the Irish players. As the Irish player was coming down in the tackle, Curtis Langdon was coming in and took him out with a knee, and then took him out with his other knee. And actually that was a little bit more dodgy. But the interesting fact that I tweeted out is that both of them are Weston-super-Mare boys. And so... and it was...
in the water?
Yeah, so basically, has that ever happened that two lads from Weston-super-Mare had got red carded in Ireland, like day after the other? And then I missed out. And then one of the freelance journalists saw my tweet and then retweeted as Western Super Nightmare. And I was like, I missed out on a massive... I mean, to be fair to him, I did say, I texted him and said, that's why you're a journalist and I'm an amateur for that. But interestingly enough, I mean, I'm sure that sort of thing happens in Western Super every Saturday.
On the regular.
Yeah.
Rugby pitch.
So, I mean, let's just wrap this up. I mean, I think it was debatable. I think it's going to be interesting. I think people will wonder why there wasn't any discussion of mitigation. He had to go. I don't think it was the intent. And I don't think it made a massive difference to the result.
No.
We had enough possession the rest of the game to score some points, and we just didn't score the points because we didn't look after the ball.
You're right. I think, interestingly enough, also, that you could argue that Northampton stepped up when they went down to 14 men and ultimately won the game against Munster, didn't they? Whereas we seem to have just folded as a result.
It's an interesting point.
And I know we had Van Rensburg who pulled into the flank, and obviously that left potential overlaps, and that fantastic second attempt by Andrew Smith out on the wing, didn't they? They did one where he adjudged to have gone into touch, then they did the same move exactly the same again and scored a second time. But you're right. Was there any change in plan when we went down to 14 men? There would appear not.
It's interesting because Donncha O'Callaghan, who was the pundit, the old Irish guy, used to be like
sort of like.
Yeah, but he's good actually. To be fair to him, it was more the commentator that I think was biased. I mean, the commentator, but his point was. That after the game, when he was asked, he said, you go to 14, but someone's got to take up the workload. It's not something that is a problem. It's just, it's something you've got to deal with. And he said, I didn't see anyone take the workload. And he said, Bristol were slow to the ruck. They were, and he was right. He couldn't believe his mentality as a top class rugby, because he was a top class, Irish international British Lion, was that, when that happens, it's just something you do. Someone takes the workload. And I think this probably gets to the nub of the problem, is that it kind of highlighted that we just don't have that physicality to deal with something like that. And, even like we've said, some like lads getting stripped on the line and stuff. I mean, the only other thing that I'd point out before we look at, there's one or two other points, is this, our decision making. There was one where, and I don't like naming names, but Harry Randall took a quick run, a quick penalty, tap penalty and run, just on our 22, got isolated, and gave away a penalty in kickable distance. And they kicked, and I just think, what? Why did he? I mean, he's probably trying too hard. This is the problem. As soon as you're down in the dumps and you've always had a bad...
Yeah, it doesn't help, does it?
And then there was a couple of times a few of our players got sat down. You know, we just didn't exude, to use. Well, we use elude all the time. Exude a physicality that I think Connacht thought. You know what? I reckon Connacht knew they were going to win that game pretty much from the first 5-10 minutes. I think they felt they just wanted it more. A couple of things I want to ask you boys. Ravuvu, first time you've really seen him. Thoughts?
Yeah, he looked a bit lively. I mean, there was, you could say, unfortunate or very good last-minute defence by Connacht, knocking the ball out of his hand when he was going to touch it. Good tackle, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
But it was just typical, wasn't it?
It was just typical of the night, wasn't it? He looks a bit lively, and he's got like little sort of, Fijian hips. He's swing in and out and dodge a few tackles.
Little hips?
Or big Fijian hips.
It's funny to say that because he looked quite leggy. Yeah. And I don't know whether I'm saying that in a good or a bad way. What do you think, Reg?
Normally you think leggy's bad.
Yeah,
I
you
guess,
do,
but,
don't you?
He's got some, pace.
I think he did a bit better out on the wing than we played him. We played him coming in off of the bench on the centre previously.
We've hardly played him at all, really.
Played him at all. He's got potential. Should we just leave it at that?
He did the best thing.
Basics. You need a team who's moving forward to give you that front foot ball.
I mean, he certainly looks like a weapon. My only worry is he really a 15 player? I don't know. Is it? He didn't play for Fiji in the World Cup, I think, at all, did he? And he just, to me, looks like he's good in broken play. And he's kind of, it was a bit of a harem scarum sort of. He kicked it. I mean, it was good. I'm not saying it wasn't good to have it, but can you afford to have someone, who is he really a 15 or is he a sevens, Fijian sevens player who might be good? I don't know, but I think that's pretty harsh because we've not seen enough of him.
I mean,
but
after at least a few games, we can.
I mean, he might have dropped the ball, but at least he dropped it over the line, whereas we were dropping it before the line before that. So it was a bit of an improvement.
Absolutely.
A couple of other things I wanted to mention. Beyond the criminal inconsistency that we've discussed. A couple of things. Joycey, Reg,
Great to see him.
Great to see him.
Great to see him. The King of Southmead, obviously, in what looked like a Bristol shirt as well, to be fair.
He was, wasn't it?
I think I said to you, didn't I? Does John Lansdowne also, design the Connacht kit?
Yes.
But it was good to see him play. I thought he did well. He acquitted himself perfectly.
He was definitely up. I mean, this is it. He was up for it. 10% more effort.
Yeah.
A bit of niggle with him and Sinks, I thought, through the game. There was a few little handbags. I mean, it's going to happen, isn't it?
Of course it is.
But it seemed to me that Sinks got under his skin a little bit as well, which is a bit poor.
Because he got carded, didn't he? And then, on the side of the pitch, he was giving the Connacht team fans aggro.
But the thing was, that yellow card, no one knew on telly. They didn't know why he'd gone. And apparently, it was a tackle off the ball as they were cut against the line. So the ref obviously decided it was kind of, just trying to slow it down. But then he was, towards the end of the game, when he was off, he was arguing with their hooker. Anyway, I've got inside info, boys. I emailed the Craggy Rod podcast to say thanks for doing it, because these boys are kind of well in with the club, and I got an email back just before I came out tonight. Apparently, they were arguing about red card, so that there was an ongoing chat about the red card all the way through.
But distract you a bit.
But this is my point. Is that why are we? They shouldn't be getting distracted by stuff. This is the point. Like Donica O'Callaghan said, it's happened. You move on. You then rectify it. You deal with that, in the bar afterwards or the changing room, or whatever. And I think that in itself is a kind of a microcosm of perhaps what's wrong at the moment. Is that they're too getting worried about external things rather than just focusing on what they're doing and as a team and sort of
like you said earlier with the red card, you readjust.
Yeah,
you cover. You do extra.
The Saints proved that it's not necessarily a problem. So
it was worrying and really clear, wasn't it? The Carl Sinclair, I think. Well, now we know, following that red card and the yellow card, his mind wasn't on the job, was it?
Doesn't feel like
he
it.
He was niggly the whole match. He's come back in this week, and we thought, right, you've got to prove your point. Absolutely massive games against Connacht. The scrum failed yet again. The aggression wasn't really there. We were getting scrum penalties. I think I'm right, aren't I?
Quite as bad as the Bulls.
Not as bad as the Bulls.
The breakdown was the problem.
We had Sinclair back, and moving forward, it wasn't a masked improvement. And it's yes, he's been guilty of being distracted in the past, and that's just not what we expect from Carl Sinclair.
Right. Well, I think we'll finish on one positive with the game.
Oh, go on,
was
then.
that
Joyce played well.
Joycey played well. So, when he comes back to Bristol, he'll come back with with the more knowledge. But I think it looked like a really good atmosphere, and it looked like the Bristol
really
fans that were out there.
Sellout crowd, I think.
Sellout crowd, but had a real good crack. There was quite a lot of nice tweets I noticed from Connacht fans and saying how good it was. The Bristol fans are real good laugh. And I think, whilst I'm sure it was really disappointing that what happened, they had quite a good time out there. So it's one of those things, isn't it? But it kind of leads us a little bit to the elephant in the room, is that this result and performance has kind of precipitated more discussion about the bigger picture, because essentially, boys, we've been double dumped out of Europe. Not only did we get dumped out of the Champions Cup, we were in 4th place before that match, so we were in a last round of 16 spot, albeit we may not have lasted that, but at least it's another game, and it would have been away somewhere for the fans. But by losing, getting no bonus point or anything, we then went down to 6th, and we were in basically the nothing position. And we were hoping that if Saracens kind of mucked up against Lyon, that we might, their negative goal, they might get a negative points difference worse than us, but that didn't happen.
No.
So we got double dumped out of Europe. We're out of the Premiership Cup. We've got 7 games to go in the Premiership. We're 10 points off the playoffs. We got 4 games at home and 3 away. And to be honest, our home form's so bad, you don't think that's an advantage. The reality is, the only thing we've really got to look forward to this season, and we're in January, is Bath on Saturday, because it's a big game and it's a sellout. So obviously it has kind of, precipitated a lot of social media chat, and I do admit, that we are talking about, it's not necessarily a wide sample range, but it is fans who are expressing their ideas, and it takes me to my second lot of 3-word reviews, which I'll just quickly go through. There's a basic theme here. It was changes needed, Lamb likes losing, please beat Bath. That was you. Yeah,
Bath will win.
Yeah, Bath will win. Pat's lost it. Change must come. Fresh ideas needed. Enough is enough. Change needed immediately. Pat Lamb out, which I don't like, to be honest, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Something's not clicking. Time to go. And then kind of someone else has put a more practical, constructive thing, which is it's now about signings, which I think was Ryan Keishall. And then somebody, a lone voice, to be fair, said so much moaning. But I don't know who that was. It might have been a proxy account from somebody.
Maybe,
but I mean, the thing is, and I don't know, boys, if you had a look on the socials and Facebook, I mean, these places are kind of designed for controversy. There is a we can't shy away from the fact that people are now questioning the coaching management of our club. Now, I've got to say right from the get-go, I'm uneasy about bandying around simple phrases like Pat Lamb out. I mean, that guy, has forgotten more about rugby than I'll ever know. He came in and, made a big difference to the club. And, it's easy to say these things but not have a solution. I mean, if Pat Lamb was to leave, like, who's going to come in? Like, what? There's a lot of questions around it. However, so I feel my take on it is that there is some sort of change needed, but I'm interested in what you boys think. So, Reg, you're in. This could be the way the contract comes. Yeah. What's your thoughts on this?
I think just slightly sort of rewinding. You said, right, out of all the cups and everything. So the football adage would be concentrate on the league.
Yeah.
Let's, really focus on what we need to do there to sort of get to, where we want to be. But ultimately, you're right. People have probably a bit worried about where we're sort of heading. We seem to be on a bit of the trajectory is not the right way.
No.
We don't seem to be producing the Bears style of rugby that we were kind of brought up with when Pat first came in. And it seems to have got a bit stale, maybe. And I think the fans feel that, and maybe the players are feeling that as well. If they're concentrating on arguing about a red card later on into the game when it happened, 70 minutes ago, why is that happening?
Well, Donica O'Callaghan again, because I went back and listened to his post-match comments, And partly because someone mentioned it on Twitter, but I also remember him saying this, and he came up with quite a good point. I mean, he said basically Pat is a culture coach. You know, that's his raison, that's his MO, is to bring players with him, and you know, to create the culture of winning and everyone buying into it. And Donico Callahan's sort of comment, as you know, he's got no axe to grind really, was that he didn't feel that you know that's happened this season, and we may say it hasn't happened, but his comment was he didn't feel like that the players had taken ownership of that culture. And that is one of the reasons why it's not clicking at the moment.
And it doesn't feel like we're watching the same sort of brand of rugby that we were
this
watching
is
a couple of years ago.
I mean, ironically,
it's a really different.
It seems to be the pundits that all seem to talk about the Bears' way, and we're all saying we ain't seen that for a while.
No.
Well, the worrying thing is that, you know, we've even got the Irish commentators on the night harping back to the disastrous loss against Quins, haven't they, in that playoff when we were top of the league. And Pat quoted, you know, after Friday night, to say like that cup exit is the most disappointing loss of the season.
I thought he said this game was the most disappointing loss, but yeah.
Well, the whole thing, isn't it? You're right. Dumped out of Challenge Cup. You're right. We've got no Prem Cup, and all we have left as fans to look forward to this season is recovering what you could say our reputation as a top flight Premiership club. That's all we've got to grasp onto. And, you know, and we Reg and I were chatting before you arrived, Pete, the fact that, you know, we probably, that year we finished top of the season, the COVID years, we had the help of Malins and Earl, and things were a bit different, didn't they? And the style of rugby we were playing, we had some very close wins in the last minute of the game, and that has completely fallen apart this season. And I'm struggling really as a season ticket holder to become excited now about any forthcoming game for the rest of the season. And I hate to say that, and it grates me. You're right. We are paying season ticket holders to see quality rugby at a quality club in a fantastic environment that is Ashton Gate. And now I can see not really getting very excited even about the Bath game at the weekend. That's worrying.
The only thing I would say is it's not. I mean, we have had some good games this season. I mean, like, don't forget, you know, we mullered Gloucester. So, and we early in the season, albeit with clubs that didn't have their England players back, we played well against Leicester first game. We beat Saints at home, and
Saints
you know,
away and Sale away.
Sorry, Saints away.
I agree.
And we, you know, we played well against Sale as well. So, I mean, I still think that there's a chance. And I mean, we were made to look stupid after that Exeter game because on the pod we were moaning. And I think I said, I bet you they'll play well against Sale, jokingly. And they did. Yeah. Now, part of me, I'm not quite as negative. I think I'm quite looking forward to Saturday because I think we do. It's not like we're Falcons where we're just winning, losing the same way every week. There is a chance. But I think it's almost more frustrating to be that inconsistent and not quite know where the next win's going to come from. And I think this is the only thing we have got to look forward to is the hope that there will be some good games. So about you, Reg, what do you think?
I think, you know, first of all, I'm disappointed to miss the Bath game on Saturday. But that is for genuine reasons. And we'll be elsewhere. But it doesn't feel like we just don't seem to click.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to be that kind of, you know, if we were doing the right things every week and just being a little bit unlucky, and just missing out, you know, by the finest of margins, I think, you know, you'd accept that, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? But we just don't seem to be able to take the game to people like we used to do.
Yeah. It's interesting that, so can we only click if we've got the 100% fit or desirable team on the pitch on the day? I mean, because, you know, we've got injuries, and you know, all clubs have injuries. But you're right, we click suddenly when Genge is on the pitch. We click when Thacker is on the pitch. Things click. When the right centre's in the pitch, we just click. And because of injuries, we haven't had that. But that shouldn't be the case. It's a squad-based system, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I'm afraid. Yep. And when the squad isn't there, and the first team isn't there potentially, we can't click. And Saturday we're going to move forward with. We'll chat about the team sheet, something similar to last weekend, and Bath will have injuries, etc. But it's not clicking consistently, is it? And I don't know why. The system that Pat Lam talks about should be an entire squad system.
Yeah.
Whether people it's just too complex or people don't buy into it, I don't know as a fan. But nothing has quite worked out this season as we would have hoped.
No, not yet.
Well, look, lads, I think we'll leave it there for a minute. I've just realised that I had two positives that I wanted to finish off.
Please,
and it's
yeah,
kind of
go
going
for it. We need some of those.
It's a bit like our season. We went forward a bit, and now I'm going back 3 steps.
Go for it.
And this was just two longer tweets from Galway fans. One of them was this aforementioned Iana, who actually sent a tweet saying, "I know between one thing and another, it's not been a great night in Galway for the travelling support, but would it be possible to give 30 seconds to the next pod to commend said supporters?" So thanks for that. It sounded like they made a good impression.
Yeah,
and then John Mulligan, I think I mentioned him as well, Galway FM. I looked him up. He's one of the presenters. He said, "Hard luck to Bristol Bears. You are a great club with massive supporters, and I have the height of respect for you guys." I wonder if he's quite small, because he's like, but heads up and best of luck for the rest of the season. So, I think we also have to take a step back from all of kind of feeling sorry for ourselves and remember that, there is a bigger picture out there. And that leads us on nicely to Saturday, which, we've eaten humble pie once already this season after the Sales game. And you know what? I'm very, very, very happy to eat it again. So we've got a big game. I mean, it is a massive game, to be honest. As we've said before, the state we're in at the moment, the state Bath are in, it's a big game. However, the stats are on our side. They haven't won at Ashton Gate for a long time.
No.
They know that there is a potential for us to play well. So I got in touch with big Bath fan that we know, a guy called Tom Dabinett, who's someone that's a friend of ours, but and thought it'd be nice to have a little chat with him before we talked about it. And we had a little chat about, his background as a fan and why Bath are flying high and his thoughts about the game. And we can listen to this now. Okay, so I'm really pleased to be joined by Tom Dabinett, who is a lifelong Bath fan, an occasional BBC Radio Bristol fan contributor, and also a proper job ambassador and general craft ale lover. Well, look, Tom, really appreciate you coming on. I wouldn't say this really, but let's say it anyway, into enemy territory to have a little chat with Bears Beyond the Gate before the massive game next Saturday. But before we get into that, I just thought it'd be nice for you to give us your credentials as a Bath fan, what it means to you and all that sort of stuff before we start talking about specifics.
Yeah, firstly, Pete, thanks for having me on. Every aspiring Bath supporter wants to be on Bears Beyond the Gate before the week before the derby. So, no, appreciate that. So I've been supporting Bath for a long, long time since I was a kid. So it's a family thing. I grew up in Chew Magna, which is potentially slap bang in the middle between Bristol territory and Bath territory, should we say. I live in Yatton now, which is definitely Bears country. But you cut me open, I bleed blue, black and white. I've been a season ticket holder for a few years now. I've been regularly attending games for years since I was a kid with my dad and my family and my friends. I've go to a load of away matches. There's not many places in the league I haven't been, but it's just my life at the end of the day. I work Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. And supporting Bath is my release. Sometimes it's made a bad week worse, more often than not. But at the moment, it's making a bad week even better. That's a lot better. So, that's me and my relationship with Bath Rugby. I'm very lucky that I know a few people at the club, so that my relationship with the club is very good, and they're really trying to build a relationship with their supporters after it was quite strained after the Stuart Hooper era. So, that's me and my relationship with Bath.
Well, mate, that's great to hear, and I think you've passed your audition there. I think you are a genuine Bath fan, and we're very pleased to have you on. You mentioned the Stuart Hooper years, and obviously Bath have always been seen by not just Bristol, I imagine, but other fans as a kind of a club that, was living on its past glory a little bit, maybe living on its amateur glory, but had kind of underachieved for quite a long time, despite a lot of investment. But obviously, new broom came in last season, and this season you're flying high. I'm just interested to hear your take on why that is and what's changed and what your aspirations are really for the near future.
Yeah, so what's changed? I'm not going to sit here in just muddy Stuart Hooper's name, because I'm not going to do that. But we didn't have a coach with any experience that could coach, if that makes sense. So Todd Blackadder left. Stuart Hooper was being groomed to be his replacement. Fair enough. That's the way the club wanted to go. But he had no experienced coaches under him. So all the coaches that had worked with him were previously our academy coaches that had played for Bath. So they're very young. Your Lilies of this world, your Davises of this world. The only one that had any real experience was Neil Hatley. And I think he'd agree that he was probably at the club too long. He probably shouldn't have come back after the 2019 World Cup. And we had no direction. We were rudderless. We didn't have a plan A, let alone a plan B. So we'd be going into games where on paper we'd have a decent side, and then we'd roll over and have our tummies tickled. We conceded 71 at home to Saracens, which was like the first home game of the season or whatever it was, and then we went up to Gloucester and lost 64-0. So, and we had countless times like that that season, and something had to change. We made the change, and Johann's come in. We've got someone who is experienced, who knows what he's doing. He's coached in Super Rugby. He's coached on the international scene. He's coached in the URC, and he knows what he's doing. He's instilled a belief in the players that had been missing for a long, long time. And we had been living off of sort of former glories. We've not won a trophy since the Challenge Cup in 2008. And you look at the players we've had in the team since then, you'd think surely we'd be there or thereabouts. Okay, we got to a Premiership final in 2015 and a Challenge Cup final in 2014. But between that and now, we've had nothing. We've underachieved massively. And I think we're only just recovering from the year that we did get to the Premiership final and lost. I think genuinely we are only just recovering from that. But it all stems from the differences being Johann and JP Ferreira. They've come in from Munster. Our defence looks a hell of a lot better. We're definitely not shipping 60 odd points each week. And they're South African, so first and foremost they're gonna want to tough us up. And that's exactly what they've done. We're a tougher team to beat. We're more physical. There's more communication between the team. Before, bless Charlie Ewells, when he was captain and we were bottom of the league, we give away a penalty on our 5 metre line and he's just looking at the floor. There was no talking or anything. But now, you've got Ben Spencer, he's shouting. Finn Russell's there to calm the ship, because that's one thing he's done. Forget everything that he can do on the pitch. Off the pitch, he's brought a calmness, and he's got there, and his leadership qualities are really shining through. So I think just the work Johann's done is a massive difference. I think it helps that you've got a coach that has a clear plan. He talks about having the right people around him, and we're on a journey which he can likens to a train journey. Year one, people are going to get off the train, people are going to get on the train. We're halfway through year two, the same thing's going to happen. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. And I think Johann is got to take 90% of the credit. The players have done awesome. They really have. A lot of the young kids that we had have just stepped up again. Your likes of Max Ajomos, Tom de Glanville, people like that. They've really stepped up. But I think without the belief that Johann puts in them, I don't think we'd be they would be there where they are now.
It's funny you should say that about Charlie Ewells, because I noticed this season he has started sporting a little bit of a mullet, hasn't he? And is that a pure South African influence straight into him? Because honestly, because I came to the game at the Rec, and when I saw him there, I just thought, he's like a different man. He looks he looks filth. And I mean, I quite like Charlie Ewels, but so yeah, if that's one of the things that we never really considered, having haircuts could make a massive difference to a player's potential.
Yeah, he had a spell in South Africa the back end of last season on loan to recover from injury, and he's come back. I think he's purely embraced the South African way of life and how a lock forward needs to behave in South Africa, and he's purely embraced that. So we're reaping the benefits from it.
Well, look, mate, I mentioned the game at the Rec, and just to kind of get a little bit of an edge into the conversation. I mean, I know I saw you at the game actually, but I didn't see you afterwards. But yeah, first 20 minutes, I thought you were going to cut through us. I thought it was going to be a massacre. But I've got to say, I thought the Bears played really well in the second half, really stepped up, and actually, they silenced the crowd. And I personally think we were quite unlucky not to win that game. I mean, Callum Sheedy had 2 kicks to win it, albeit very difficult. On another day, those could have come in. I would perhaps say you got away with one there. So, I mean, I don't know what you think about that comment, but I was going to ask you now about Saturday to come. Obviously, massive game for us for many reasons, but not least the fact that it's going to be a sellout in front of the crowd. We obviously are going to expect to win. So taking into that game that happened at the Rec in terrible conditions, and the one to come, what's your take on what's going to happen on Saturday?
Well, yeah, first of all, the game at the Rec, we were lucky, there's no doubt in that. The final whistle went, I looked up at the sky and just blew my cheeks because it was a relief that we got over the line, but that was a game we should not have won. Like you said, first 20 minutes we played really well, scored 2 really quick tries, and then the heavens opened and we just decided to kick the lever off of it, and it didn't work. And you played your way back into the game really well, and our discipline should have cost us the game. Like I said, Callum Sheedy had 2 penalties on another day. They sailed between the posts. That I came away feeling lucky and relieved from that, because that is definitely a game that we should have lost. But looking ahead to Saturday, as a Bath supporter, I'm not going to say it's ever a nice experience going to Ashton Gate, because it's always packed and always loud and raucous, and you're always made to feel welcome. But usually when you're walking out the ground having got beat, it's quite a somber experience for us, when there's 20 odd thousand Bristol fans just loving life, and we're just trying to get out the ground without being spotted. But no, it's these games, they stand out on their own, don't they? Form goes out the window. I think you guys have been criminally inconsistent this year for the squad that you've got, and you always seem to turn up for the big games regardless of how you've got on before that. So when Bath are at Ashton Gate, it's never easy for us. We haven't won there for a long time. I think probably there was a Challenge Cup game a good few 5-6 years ago that we won. But that's the last time we won there. So, form goes out the window. I'm not overly confident. I never am when I watch Bath away from home, because my record of seeing Bath away from home is abysmal anyway. So, but Bristol, Bath, Ashton Gate, full house. Bristol are going to be up for it. This is the one game you've got probably left in your season to aim for and to give the fans something to cheer about and be happy about. And that's not me sat here trying to be big-headed as a Bath fan. That's me just being genuinely honest. I think this is probably the last big hurrah that you've got to aim at this year. You've been knocked out of Europe and you sat 8th in the Premiership, and nobody, even as a Bath fan, wants to see a Bristol team struggling the way they are. So I think you're going to come out all guns blazing. It'll be interesting to see team selection, how you look to play. Are you going to look to stretch us? Quite possibly, because when we've been facing a team that wants to play fast and quick this year, we have struggled. So that's Harry Randall's game, isn't it? As well, he likes a fast-paced game, running into the open spaces, and we're going to be out without our England players as well. So the spine of our team, essentially, Abano, Stewart, Underhill, Spencer, Lawrence. So anything can happen. I think it's going to be really tight, but I am looking forward to it. These games just stand out on their own.
I think it would be a bit unfair to ask for a score prediction. But I'm going to do it anyway. What do you reckon, Tom? Give us a score prediction. Put your, give us what you think at this moment, given everything you've said.
I'll give you two. I'll give you what my head's saying and what my heart's saying.
Yeah, fair enough then.
Yeah, so my head is saying Bristol by about 10, with the players we've got out, and then the Ashton Gate factor. But based purely on form and league position and whatnot, I'm going to sneak it and say Bath by 1.
Love it. That's fair enough, mate. Fair play. I think you'll get some respect for doing that. So there you go, boys. I mean, Tom was, I thought was very, very balanced. He's, he's obviously cock a hoop, really, that Bath seemed to have turned a corner, a massive corner, and he was, very kind of honest about why that is. Big fan of Van Graham, has brought a bit of structure, brought a bit of sort of grown-up coaching to the club, and obviously, I'd say the one thing is that he's recruited a lot of South Africans as well, which has given them a bit of edge. But he is a bit nervous about coming to the Gate. It's a place that they don't win in recent times. They're going to have all of their England contingent out. But he does think that their Scottish boys, so Finn Russell, Redpath and Cameron Redpath and Josh Bayliss will be back from the Scotland camp, because apparently they can't afford to keep them over the weekends, can they? I think. Whereas we're taking our lot out to Girona for some sort of paddleboarding. Yeah. So, what do you think, Reg? What's your thoughts? You're not going. So, what do you think?
If I was a Bath fan, I'd be pretty positive. To be fair, going into Saturday, we're sort of being. They should be looking at us as being a team they should be beating at the minute, I think, the way we've been playing. And I would be quite happy with a narrow win for us. But as a Bath fan, I'd be buzzing for Saturday.
So do you think that a narrow win would be all right, the result is important, or do you think we also need a performance?
I think we need both, don't we? I think we need to actually get some decent points. We need to play like we know we can play, and we need to play the Bears' way. And we seem to have forgotten how to do that. I mean, ironically, at the Rec earlier in the season, in November, or it was October, bad 20 minutes to start with, and they looked they were going to cut through us. But actually, second half, we outplayed them, and Tom said, so we know we can do it. I mean, that's the thing. It's not outside of our beliefs or boundaries of reality that we could actually play well on Saturday. What do you think, Miles?
Well, there is a possibility. Like you said, I mean, Tom is a bit nervous, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he looked at the stats. I mean, great chap. I mean, I'd like to big him up even more, because I do remember a few seasons ago, he walked all the way from Bristol to the Rec with Lee, didn't he, for a charity event?
Yeah.
And if you can withstand walking with Lee for two hours or half a day, you can withstand anything.
Well, Tom did say it was 2 hours of silence.
He got his headphones in.
Yeah.
So, he's a fantastic fan and a friend of the pod. And, I guess, funnily enough, I was all doom and gloom until I listened to that interview with Tom, wasn't I? And suddenly, I feel a bit more positive about Saturday.
He didn't realise I've played him, haven't I?
Well, absolutely.
I've given him the platform, and then he's hung himself.
He played the system like a blinder. So actually, he's a Bath fan that has given me more hope for the weekend. And we've chatted about, we haven't chatted about, but let's just talk about, the fact that I think team sheet wise, Harry Randall potentially took a bit of a sort of ankle injury, didn't he? And came on 53 minutes, and Marmion came on. That might clear up in a week. It might have been quite minor, but Marmion's played well. So there's probably not a lot, apart from the fact that we might get Caulfield banned for numerous games. So we'll have to backfill him. And they've got all their English internationals out.
Did you say we'll have to backfill Caulfield? I'm just going through my mind what that means, Miles. But anyway, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
In another type of podcast, backfilling a big bloke might be seen. Yeah.
But I don't know. But thanks, Tom. I'm a little bit more positive about the weekend. Statistics don't lie. We've got 24,000 Bristol Bears fans, and quite a few from down the road. We won't mention that city.
There'll be a lot.
There'll be a lot, to be honest with you. A good old crack on a Saturday afternoon. And if players, like we discussed on the Friday night, players didn't step up, there was no aggression, the line out, everything wasn't working. This is the one occasion where you sort of say, you've got to play well. Everything has got to click. And you're right, Reg, we've got to play the Bristol way, but I'll be sucked into Bath's way and their season has been great.
Well,
we've got to get the win, and if we start on the front foot well enough and stop making these silly errors at home, we should. Yeah, there's no excuse. I mean, I know they're third in the table. I know we're eighth in the table, but it's a home match. It's at Ashton Gate. I feel on this occasion it's a must extra must
double,
win,
yeah.
double must win.
But I mean, I wonder whether selection's quite important for Saturday. I don't know what you think. I mean, thinking about, do you have any thoughts on that, or do we just?
I think we've got to make sure the selection tallies with the way we want to play on the day, isn't it? Really, I mean, I think we need to be able to field a team that's not necessarily the biggest name.
Yeah,
but it's got to be the best player for the fit on the day.
Unlike the Chiefs game, which I wasn't at because I was in Australia, I don't know if I mentioned that over Christmas, but it seemed to me that we didn't take the game to Chiefs in that second half, and we got caught in a kind of arm wrestle and didn't score any points themselves. I mean, to me, we got nothing to lose now. I think I agree, and therefore that's what I was kind of get to is I'm thinking our kind of midfield three should be the one we had at Sale, where we got AJ McGinty at 10, we had Williams at 12 and Rensburg at 13. And
I think I agree.
I just think that's the best combo we've had, and I think and then they're going to be missing Will Stewart, aren't they? I think they're going to be missing Beno Urbano. So although we have had problems with the scrum, I think we've really got to get on top of our front row and say, boys, you've got to get in there very early. You've got to make a massive statement, because if you get on the front foot, which we can do, we can get on the front foot. We then look to unleash the backs, and I think Max Malin needs a big game, and that is the stage for him to have a good game.
From a confidence perspective, we need to win. Just to maybe sort of boost the rest of our season.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's definitely. I mean, I think if we don't, and it's a bad day, not only will the marketing and the finance department at Ashton Gate be unhappy, but a lot more people will be continuing to ask these difficult questions from which they don't appear to get any answers at the moment.
Well, the question then is, who are you going to bring in instead of Josh Caulfield?
Well, I mean, we don't know if James Dunn, if he's fit again, would be a good replacement. We've got Ed Holmes. I mean, he's going to be chomping around if he's still fit to get in there, because he could do a job.
Because there were quite a few listed as unavailable at the weekend.
We don't know what that means.
No, I mean, am I right? There was a Heward unavailable. Was Lane on that list as well? I think you're right. There's no mucking around with this game, and sad as it might seem, but I think you're right. The centre partnership has to revert back to that Sale win. And if they're fit, I think Revuvu may be back to the bench, and we get Heward or Lane on the wing, and Malin's covering at fullback.
I mean, my only worry is that, like a lot of people have mentioned before, is that we can't really get our back line firing until we've got some dominance up front, and I think that's why we did well at Sale, because we matched them. We won the collision, so it can be done. We'll see. But boys, I'm looking at the time. We've been chit-chatting quite a lot here. We need to move on quickly. So the final thing really was that I again wanted to finish on more of a positive, and that's the women's game. So we did make a commitment early in the season that we would try and cover the women's game. Lee said he was going to go to every home game, but I don't think that's happened yet. But we have got our own roving reporter. Kate McCoy is someone that we meet down at the game, and she's a dual season ticket holder with the men and the women's. So she very kindly sent us a little report from the bonus point victory yesterday against Harlequins, and this is what she said.
Hi, Pete, Miles and Lee. I finally warmed up after a really cold and blustery afternoon at Shaftesbury Park, watching Bristol Bears women beat Quins ladies with a bonus point win 26-7. It was overall a really strong game against a Quins side that didn't seem to click into gear today, despite their squad being laden with internationals. The penalty count on both sides was high. At one point, I was a bit worried that we weren't going to secure the bonus point try, but we got there in the end. After about 60 minutes, Quins got their only try, courtesy of Hannah Sims, who's a former Bear herself. And as Bears fans, I think we might have been a bit concerned to hear this week that Sarah Byrne won't be returning this season through injury. Simi Pam was still recovering from injury, so maybe some concerns around the front row, but we really needn't have been concerned. Eliane Clark had a fantastic game, getting player of the match. And our tries came from Deborah Wills, Amber Reid, Delaney Burns and Hannah Bottoman. And the women really gave us 713 supporters there today something to smile about, which is quite a stark contrast to how I felt after last night's Bears game. But enough said about that. A real big shout out to all the Bears and Shaftesbury Park teams who've, in my opinion, really upped their game this season with what they offer supporters on match day. It's really exciting to see how the women's game is building. For any Bears Beyond the Gate listeners that haven't yet got down to see the women play, there's a perfect opportunity on Friday, the 23rd of February, where we take on Loughborough Lightning at Ashton Gate under Friday night lights. Why not get a ticket? Up the Bears!
So there you go, boys. I mean, again, I always say this every week, Miles. The people we ask to send us reports sound so much better and more informed than we are. Fair play to Kate for that. It was very good. And she even got a bit of advertising for the next game in as well. I can't remember the date. I should have written it down, but it's in April.
Like...
Yeah, and I mean, we went down, didn't we?
It's February, isn't it? Friday, 22nd or 23rd of February.
Me and you went down to Shaftesbury Park before Christmas, very cold night, and it was great.
I can't make that game at Ashton Gate, I'm afraid, because I've got a weekend away. But you know, get down there, fans. It's know, it's a great atmosphere. The women are doing fantastically. We heard there's unfortunately one of their, Sarah Byrne looks like she's taken a injury, a season-ending injury, which is very sad, and we've still got some players out. But great win at the weekend. I mean, interestingly, did you see that Hartbury beat Sarries? I mean, that's a big statement, isn't it? At the weekend, the women's game.
Yeah, I don't know. Reg, do you follow the Bears women at all?
Not that much, to be honest, not yet. But I think it's certainly growing in interest, isn't it? The same as the football for the women down at Ashton Gate as well.
In fact, actually, it does remind me. There was another tweet from somebody that I did write that I was going to read out because it was actually quite a good point, and it was from Kev O'Neill, and it was amongst the kind of morass of tweets that were backwards and forwards about the men's game, and he said it's not all about the men's first team. He said the progress in the academy and the women's team has been significant. So he wanted to make that point. But then he did caveat it by saying, note that this isn't saying that there isn't need for improvement or change, but I'm trying to bring up aspects that are often ignored. And I think that's a good point made. Get down to Shafts. No, it's Ashton Gate, she said,
Gate.
And it was great. I came in the last one, the Ashton Gate against Sale. I went down with my daughter. It was a really nice atmosphere. And I think, definitely somebody got support. Well, look, boys, I think that is it. It's going to be a big week. But, Miles, good reminder. We need to remind everybody
every week
that this is the last week for voting for us in the Sports Podcast Awards, the best rugby category. Now, I don't know if anyone who followed us on Twitter, but we got mentioned, name-checked in the rugby pod. Because the world's, right. I mean, the
they worried?
Well, no. Well, interestingly, I can't believe you didn't hear it. I snipped it all out.
Sorry.
Do you not actually follow our Twitter account? Anyway, so what happened was
flicking profiles, Pete. It's all very technical.
It's not difficult. Anyway, the point is, for those of you who can go back and look at it, because I've pinned it. I've actually pinned it to our Twitter. Well, the point was that they, in the rugby pod, for those that don't know, that is probably the country's most listened to rugby club. Big Jim O'Hamilton, Big Good, big hitters, big commercial hitters. They're in our category. They were saying, or their host now was saying, "Oh, you boys, they didn't even know it. You boys have been nominated. Apparently, they've won it the last 2 years." And then anyway, Andy Good said, "Well, who have we got?" Or no, Jim Hamilton said, "Who have we got?" And so Andy Good read through it, and they were taking the mickey out of some of them. Got to Bears. Andy Good goes, "Bears Beyond the Gate." Jim Hamilton goes, "Oh, Bristol." Banter like that, and then moved on. So I have this feeling that he knows. Anyway. So I snipped that out, and it took me ages, and put it in Twitter, and I've had about 4 likes on it. But anyway, the point is, boys, they were just sounding a little bit arrogant. There was a whiff of hubris running through that. We need to take those boys down in the nicest possible way. We need to win that collision.
Spread the word.
We've got it. So we did say last week that every single person that listens to this pod, if you could find it in your heart, if you haven't done already, because I know a lot of people have, to Vote for us. The link will be in the show notes, or just Google Sports Podcast Awards 2024 rugby category. And come on, boys, we're out of 3 cups now this season. There's no silverware.
This is the only silverware we can
Or we did discuss last week that it's probably not silverware. It'll be like some sort of wooden sort of thing. But it is the only chance we've got of any glory. Boys, back us, and women and everybody out there,
babies.
children, anybody with an email account. And if you haven't got one, just set one up. It's not difficult.
Make one up.
Google Mail, set one up. And if you've got multiple email accounts, I mean, I'm getting desperate now, Miles. I've got about 3.
Use them all.
Activate old
Use
email
them
accounts,
all.
work accounts. Just go into when you get to work, get into somebody else's computer. Just do it so that we can bring home
make sure
some
you opt out
silverware,
of other people's
and we can
accounts,
put a smile on Bristol Bears fans' faces. And on that note, boys, I think we should say, get over the weekend. Let's look forward to Saturday, and we need to do our part on Saturday. We need to be there, singing, cheering, backing the boys, and hopefully they'll give us a little bit of positivity.
Absolutely.
And stay safe.